welcome to Tuesday. It's really weird being here on a Tuesday, isn't it? What's the weather like with you? It's absolutely precipitating it down here. I know the world needs it and everything, and I know that they were worried we were heading for a drought and everything, but couldn't it have waited until next week? You know, the kids are off school, and I was camping in this. We went to the big retreat weekend down in Pembroke, Loreni, I think it was. We were overlooking the estuary. Beautiful, beautiful place. I got one of our neighbours, friend, lives a couple of doors down. She's got a caravan down there, and she says now you can see why it's my happy place, and it really is beautiful there. We had a glamping tent, so we were in a bell tent, and with all the wind and the rain, it was still, we were still dry. We were lucky. There were some people that got flooded out, and the bed was comfy. So that's always a plus for me. If I can sleep, then it's all good. So the bed was comfy, and we did quite a few things. We missed a few things because we didn't know how the system worked, but we will go next year, and it should be brilliant. So, yeah, tipping down with you, is it, Liz? Hiya, Marilyn, how are you? And there's a big word. Oh, precipitating. I'm thinking, I don't normally use big words. Which word was it? Yes, it was what my dad used to say. It's precipitating it down. And hiya, Helen, how are you? Right, before we get on to block of the week, I'm doing block of the week. It's not a very exciting block. It didn't work. When I saw a picture of it, I worked out how to do it. It didn't have the final outcome that I was hoping for, but it might be something that you like. So before we get on to that, hiya, Tanya. Next week would be good, as I'm in a Tora caravan near Saundersfoot. Oh, yeah, it was. Oh, sailing in a regatta. You wouldn't want to sail in a regatta at this, would you? However, if they wait long enough, they'll be able to take the regatta to them. I don't know about that. Oh, is it nice? I've been looking at the Nikki. Is the weather nice with you? I've been looking at the weather forecast. I'm in Thassos in Greece in 2 weeks, and it's warming up quite nicely. Have better weather next year. We'll have better. Yeah, we did. Only I didn't pack right for the rain. I think that's as well. You know, I was expecting it to be a slightly warmer, so the things that I took with me didn't work with the weather. Dry robes, that's what you need, whether you go wet, you know, wet water swimming, wild water swimming. Dry robes are the thing to wear to a festival, because they come down below your knees, so when you're sat there watching a band or anything, you're still warm and dry. It's lovely. So there we go. Beautiful. I envy you, Nikki. Right, where are we? What am I doing? Who am I? There we go. Look what came in while I was away. This is one of the things that came in. If you wanted to do a low volume quilt, 4 is the 5. If you wanted to do a low volume quilt, this would be a beautiful way of doing it. Now we've got this in all of the pre-cuts. There's all these beautiful patterns on it. So you've got 4 of that one. I'm trying to see whether you get 4 of everything. There's 4 of that one. Yes, you're getting 3 or 4 of each pattern. Now you'd think that they would give you the same amount of each pattern. There's 3 of that one, and there's 4 of that one. Yeah, you'd think that they would give you the same amount of each pattern so that you can make a pattern out of the pattern. So, but it's beautiful. All ditzy, little, tiny. I mean, I don't know whether you actually are seeing this well enough. It's beautiful, and I don't do quiet colours, as you will see from my next my actual block of the week. So this is block of the week this week. Oh, this is called Mixed Bag of Bonbons. And I think Anne was putting it on now. So yeah, so I think that is the one that Anne's doing. Right, so this is block of the week. Right, bearing in mind I was away all weekend, so I only went with a picture. I wasn't able. I've got a pattern. It's a free pattern on the internet, so I'm hoping they don't mind me showing you to do the next time I do block of the week. But I wasn't prepared to learn it at 10:30 last night. So we've got this one. It's a braid. Okay. Now I've only done the one, so I did some photos of what you could do with it once you've done loads, if that's what you wanted to do. So I went along and where's the beginning? So this one here, you can see that you get a cross. Now some people don't like the crosses, but you get this empty square in the middle. So if you did your square a different colour to your triangles, you would get an extra pattern in there. Do you see what I mean? Or if you did one triangle one colour and one triangle another colour, you complete a pattern, change it a bit. So this is them going different ways. I thought I had one that went all the same way. I didn't print that one, obviously. There, and then this one, I should really have moved this over and then put this one so that you can see. Can you see the weave going through it? So you could do that. I've made it so that it's a 12.5-inch block, so it'll fit in with anything. And if in doubt, you learn how to do the braid, and you then make a project wallet, which is what I do with everything. So this one here would be like a lily flower. Oh, I must look at Sarah's lily on the way out and see if it's open. So yeah, that would look like a lily flower if you put them just like that. Just like that. Right, so what have we got here? It finishes at 12.5. I cut some off to make it finish. So these aren't quite 2.5, but I don't think you'd really notice. Without these two on, it was coming out too small. So you need a 5-inch square and a 9-inch square, 2.5 by 5 and 2.5 by 7.5, I think 7.5. Okay, and then you just trim it all down. So without further ado, we are going to build this. Now this square, your 9-inch square, you're going to cut in half, okay, so that you get 2 triangles. The 5-inch square, you're going to put the 5-inch long 2.5-inch wide thing right sides together, and then when you get your 7.5, and I'm telling you this now because I'll go to the machine and probably just keep going. Right, this isn't 7.5. Let's get 7.5 out of this. So I'm lining up along one edge and pop that off there. I like that. So your 5.5, we'll sew that on, and then we can go to the next bit. I'm going too far ahead, I think. Okay. Hi, Eileen. How you doing? Yes, I love the colours as well. It is out of my stash, unfortunately, because, like I say, late at night, and I didn't have any current fabrics on the go. So, but I do have a new foot on my machine and an update on my VQ2. So I'm hoping that's a 1/4 inch. So I now have a foot that does the same as Sarah's. It's cost me a lot to get to that, but at least now I don't get quite so confused. So, right, yeah, the update on my machine, I've got a Brother MVQ2. Is it MVQ? No, it's a VQ2. It's an Innovus VQ2. I keep calling it MVQ because Dave's an MVQ assessor. Now, that's not a very straight seam because I went too fast, but that's okay because we trim it up at the end. I've given you enough to trim off. Right, so this one is going to go along the bottom like this. Okay, so you get 7.5 then here. All right, no you don't, you get 7. We didn't need the 7.5, so we're just going to sew this on and we'll trim it off at the end. So it's a 7 inch by 2.5 inch for this long bit here, and we're going to sew it back on there. I'm still having problems remembering which button's which you'd think after 5 years I'd have an idea. Right, make sure that all lines up. There we go. So while we were there, Dave saw one of his friends, a yoga teacher, at this big retreat. It's got music in the evening, but it's wellness. So you can go and have a massage, you can make things. I made a silver bangle and I did a willow dragonfly. I wasn't very good at it. I think I rushed it. That's the problem. And I think that I would like to try it again. In fact, I want to try it with wire. Right, so we've now got a 5 here and a 7.5 here. We're going to carry on with the 5s, but of course we now have 7 inches here, don't we? Because that's 5. It's gone down to 4.25, 2, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7.5. I think is here, but we don't need the 7.5 because when we cut it, we're actually going to cut down here, and you can see that there is not 7.5 or even 7. So we're just going to sew from this point here backwards. All right, so let's go with another colour. Let's go with a bright orange. There we go. So this is Bonfire Batiks. We did have this in many years ago. We got, if you're looking for batiks, we've got new batiks in called Echo Batiks. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Right, so we're going to sew this. I know it doesn't reach the end, but you'll see when we get to the end of this that you don't need it to. Okay, so we're going to sew from here upwards. So I'm going to turn that over like that and sew that down. Doing it this way, you can see where your other seam is to make sure it's lying flat. Where are we? Yeah, we're all right. Okay, so we're going to iron that one out like that. Okay, so we're making a braid. Now we've made these in all sorts of things, you know, we did braided pouches. No, we're doing braided pouches on Sewing Street this week. So this is a good way of you can see how a braid works. So now we're going to go back with a long one, and we only need it to be 7. So we're going to cut that off at 7. I think it's 7. Like that. And we're going to cut that off so that you can see that I'm not going all the way to the end. Okay, so we're going to put that on there, and I'm again only going to sew to the end of this fabric, and this time I can do it on the top. Oh, you do, Heather, have a look at the new boutiques. They are absolutely beautiful. I need to find a project. Sarah won't let me have layer cakes and things unless I come up with a project. So I need to come up with a project of what I want to do with it, because otherwise it sits in my stash. And it's okay for you to have a stash, but I need to be able to use mine. That's not a good 1/4 inch, by the way. That's miles smaller than it should be. I'm not very good without a guide. Right, so how many do we need? We need to go 8, I think it is. 2, 4, 6, yeah, 8. So we've done 4 to go. Right. We need a one to go along there. So shall we use that one? I should have worked these out, shouldn't I? We need a mid one, I think. Right, we've used that one. We've used that one. We could use that one, couldn't we? That'll work. Let's have that one. There. We're going to do that. So we're going to do it from the point back up. Okay. From the point back up. There we go. Hiya Angela, how you doing? Hi Susie. Hi Patty, how are you? How's the weather with you? Because it's totally precipitating it down here. Okay, so follow the line, Sarah Jane. Follow the line. So we're just adding this one to it. It's moving underneath. I know that we do 1/4 inch for our quilting. However, if you're just putting something together, as long as you always use the same width, if you always use edge of foot, as long as you're not trying to make a pattern fit, that's where you need the 1/4 inch, because quilters have all worked it out before, you know, for you on the 1/4 inch, and if you don't use the same amount, it's not going to fit. Right, so we're going to sew that one on there. It's a bit wonky because I didn't sew a good 1/4 inch. Okay, 7. So this is all just from looking at a picture on Pinterest. Quite often you can pick up some really good ideas from a picture and then make it your own. You change it so that you can make it work for you. However, you can follow their pattern if they've written a pattern. find Pinterest has now either become an extra for Etsy, or for showing people what you've been doing, your work-wise. Where are we? 3. Which is awesome to see other people's work, but that's what our Gigglers is for. So you can see I'm making this braid. Okay, so we've got 2, 4, 6, 2 more to go. What are we going to go in here? I've done that one. That's a dark one. Need to go light. What about pumpkins? Should we just put a pumpkin in there? I don't know why I'm overthinking this, because I don't know what I'm going to do with these 2 blocks apart from make a project wallet when I've finished anyway. So there we go. Let's go and do that one, and then one more after that. Hiya Heather, come on in. So now you can see how the braid has started. If you wanted to make a braid quilt, I would then start with I wouldn't start with a square. I'd start with a triangle and then build off that. But you can see that, you know, you don't actually need as much fabric as you think to make these braids, and you could just have them coming down. Trying to think how, yeah, they cut them off, they trim them so that they become a thing. I was just trying to wonder how you would do it. You would use background fabric at the end of these, so you would have to increase it as it was coming up. If you wanted to keep it at a line, no, then you'd be that way, wouldn't you? You need it to go that way. I don't know. Right, one last one. I'm going to put that one in because I quite like that one. So we want 7 on that as well. Last one going in. So I'm going to put this here so that it finishes off how much we need for the braid to make a 12.5-inch block. There we go. We had a cold spell last week. This week it's supposed to warm up to normal. What is normal for you? Summer. Weekend, all the pools open, but it was too cold to go swimming outside. Yes, I would say it's too cold to go swimming outside here as well. Unless you're brave. They had hot tubs and ice baths at the retreat. I didn't go in one. I'm too much of a chicken for that. I like the idea of wild water swimming, but they all go really early in the morning. And I'm not really an early in the morning person. I mean, when we got up for the sunrise, when we went to for midsummer last year as one of the 60th 60s, we yeah, it was wild. There was all these people there. Right, need a long ruler now, a long ruler to cut this so that it becomes a straight line for you to be able to put your other bit on. You need to, it should fit, shouldn't it? You need to line up one of your lines with your corners. Okay, corners of your square. Can you see this? Let's move it up a little bit. So I've lined up my one from the diagonal corners of my square so that the braid runs where I want it to. So we're going to keep that there, and I'm going to move it so that I'm just cutting off along these edges, okay, where this one ends is where you want to be able to cut. Now I need more to cut it all the way, so we're just lining it up like that, and then we're going to trim it along here like that, so that you end up with a straight line. And then we're going to do it with this one. So I'm going to line it up so that I've got the top of my, you can't see that now, can you? So that I'm lining it up with my diagonal corners, and I want it to run through these points here, which is slightly squiff, so that we're not actually cutting any of the square off, we're just trimming the sides, okay, like that. So we now have a braid. Now you could leave it like this and make a pouch. Make a pouch, look. But we're going to square it up, and in order to square it up I needed a square. So I worked it out that I needed 9 inches. Now I worked it out by, I want that in that corner there, that one in the top corner, and I want this bit down here in that corner, and I wanted it to be 12 and a half. So I lined my ruler up with that corner there to work out what size I needed my my triangles to be. Now you can see that it is just shy of 8 inches along the bottom here. Does that show on the thing? You can't really see the ruler, I don't think. Yeah, it's just shy of 8 down here. So I made my square 9 and then cut it in half to make sure that I have enough. I'd rather trim it off at the end than worry about whether or not I've got enough. So I'm just going to trim it like that. Now, when you're working now with these triangles, they're now on the bias. This bit here is stretchy, okay, and that's the bit we're sewing. So don't pull it when you're putting it on. You've got to be really delicate with it, okay. So we're going to put this on here. Now this is the end that we're keeping, okay. You saw when I put the ruler on, we're going to trim quite a bit of this off. Now if I was a mathematician like Sarah, or good at maths like Sarah, I would have worked out that instead of 2.5 inches and losing some of this here at the bottom, that it should be a certain amount, but I'm not, so I would rather just trim it off. So you need to make sure that this end here sticks out when you put it on, that it sticks out by at least 1/4 inch here, because when you flip it over you need that 1/4 inch in order for it to sit flush. So we've lined all that up. I'm actually going to pin it because it's on the bias, and I don't want to pull it. I'm going to pin this one. You know that we don't pin very much, but I want to make sure that this is not going to move, and I'm not pulling it to put it back into position. Okay, too much. So we're all lined up, so it's over by at least 1/4 inch on this end, but it only just reaches on that end, but that's okay. I'm going to trim it off. Hi Ali, how are you? Oh, you're a bit wet as well, are you? it is pretty fabric. I was just saying that you should have a look at the Echo boutiques. Now they're pretty. Stick to the lines there. I'm really not very good at sticking to this line, am I? It's a good job I have some to chop off. So, oh, you missed it. Sorry, I'm back. I always forget that I was doing really well as well. I haven't forgotten once. So, hiya Mary, how are you? Has it been your there was another Heather? Oh, sorry other Heather, I didn't notice. But both of you are very welcome. Mary, has your granddaughter had her birthday? Or is it still to come? You can see I needed to leave it over a little bit more. Can you see here that it I'll need to trim some of my square off. I wonder if I can iron that back out. Oh no, if you iron it properly, it fits. I'll be trimming off a little bit of this, not a little bit of that. So, on the other side, I'm going to turn this over and I want it to go over on this end. Like that. Where's my pins? Pin that there. Make sure that it is lined up nicely, like that. Yeah, I'm all good, thanks Ali. The weekend didn't kill me camping. Although I did think at one point we were going to freeze to death. See, when we used to go camping, when Sarah's family and us used to go camping, we always had a hookup, an electric hookup, and I took an electric heater, and it used to heat up my tent before I got in it. I know that means I'm very spoilt, but I'm a princess. And I will own the fact that I'm a princess and I like things just so. Right, okay. Right, this just shows you that these things can work even if you don't sew them right. I've got kinks and all sorts in this. Everybody needs a kink, eh? Right, there we go. So, set that, and then we're going to iron it out. Oh, make sure you go back over there, Sarah. We are just finishing off. We're going to iron this. I've ironed my seams out, you know, towards my background fabric, like that. So because it's on the bias, it has, and I've sewn it wonky, it has ended up wonky on the edges, but I'm going to trim all that off now, so I'm not going to get particularly fussy about it. Right, so we want the top, I'm going to stand up for this, okay, we want this to be 12.5 inches. Mine has ended up, I didn't cut half this off last night, but we want to get as much of the 4 3/4 my square should be up the top. So I'm going to line up my 4 3/4 on that, okay, and then we're going to make sure that everything is within. So I'm going to lose a little bit of my square, but I'm assuming that you will, if you do this, you will sew more conscientiously. I'm going to trim this bit off here. And there, move the other one so I don't trim that. So now we have a very straight, she says, we have a very straight edge corner here. So I'm going to line my 12.5-inch ruler up in that corner. Okay, so I know that that should be perfect there. So I've made sure that it's hit all the points along here and all the points along the bottom, and so I'm just going to trim off the rest. So you can see, no you can't. Hang on. So you can see I've trimmed quite a bit off that corner. So these actually work because I'm using very similar tones. I just picked out these tones. I just picked out a wad of those. You're not really going to notice too much, but if you have a look at the one I did last night, you can see I didn't cut off quite as much from my last one, probably because I got all my edges right and my seams right, and I didn't end up with really small edges. So you can see when you put them all together, you're going to get these lovely secondary patterns here. So that would become a large square, and then you've got, if you put 4 of those together, you would get a square, a smaller square. What else did we do with them? You can put them so that they all go the same way. There's the, yeah, you can see you can see where my seams were all different. So as long as your seams are all the same, it's fine. But I love it. I love the pattern and everything, but it didn't do a secondary pattern as well as I was hoping. So there's 2 beautiful project wallets. I run out of project wallets. I don't know whether you're the same. I run out of them because I put a project in it, as you do. I come over here and then I go home and that project just sort of like sits there, and I never finish it. So I don't know whether it's the same for you. So I'm done. You don't. Oh. So yes. So please have a play with it. I'm sure. Do a braid. It doesn't matter how you do it. The braid is the pattern here. That's the bit that I like. I think to do a full braid in a quilt, if you had a charm pack, you could do a lap size quilt. Charm pack, braid, just cut them in half, so you have a 2.5 by 5, and you just make sure that they overlap like that, and you trim it off on where the fabric leaves a V. You trim it up and you have that braid in a straight line, and then put a bit of background fabric in between each one, and you'll get a beautiful quilt. I love the braid. Anyway, that's me. You're the same, are you, Claire? Yes, you go home and you put it down, and because there's always something else to do, it never gets done. What did I do last week? We made something that I was going to... Oh, the books for the girls. I could cam snap them and they'd be done. They're coming round tonight. Perhaps we'll cam snap them and then I can give them to them. Right. I'm going. Breathe. Have a wonderful week. Sarah's here at 1 o'clock tomorrow because she's travelling up for Sewing Street tomorrow night. She is here at 1. You can watch her at 7, but it won't be live. And if you haven't booked on it and always fancy doing a kaleidoscope, look at this. How beautiful is that? So kaleidoscope is the 7th of June. So if you fancy doing one, we can do it. Project Wallet. I'll show you next week. Next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday we'll do a Project Wallet. Okay? And you'll be amazed at how easy it is. So we could turn one of these into a Project Wallet, or like do some Tula Pink. I had an owl of the Tula Pink. I might make it out of that, and then it's done, isn't it? So we will see. I'll see you next week. I'll do Project Wallet, okay, just to refresh ourselves. Maybe, we'll see. You can also buy the June Taylor ones, Tanya. They're on our website. I will see you next Thursday with something. Ta-ra!